the stories, mysteries, man-made lies. They tell us how you fell from the sky.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American Hour. I'm your host, Clay Douglas. And my guest is TedShoebat. Hello, Ted. How are you?
I'm all right. Thanks for having me, sir.
Ted, give me a little bit of your history. I know that your father is Walid Shoebat, who says he was a former Palestinian terrorist.
Right.
Now, Palestinians, what form of Palestinian was he? Was he a Christian Palestinian, a Muslim Palestinian, or a Jewish Palestinian?
He was a Jew. He was a Muslim Palestinian.
A Muslim. He's a Muslim. You're a Muslim. You grew up to be Muslims. You were raised in a Muslim religion, or what?
My father converted to Christianity when I was only 3 years old, so I was never really raised Muslim.
He converted to Christianity when you were 3.
That's correct.
Okay, and he was still a terrorist. I thought if you were a Muslim and you converted to Christianity, that made you an apostate, and the Muslims wanted to kill you.
The Muslims still want to kill us, but that's a whole other story. But yes, when someone converts to Christianity from Islam, automatically they have a price on their head. That's the whole concept. Muhammad the Prophet said, whoever leaves this religion, kill him.
Recorded live.
I'm sorry, we're just recording here.
All right.
Okay. Now, were you born in Israel and Palestine, or?
No, I was born in the United States.
Okay. Now, I've interviewed your father. We'll talk about his story in a little while, but I want to get to yours. You were raised by a Bioman that was claims to have been a terrorist. He doesn't say, I don't recall whether he said that he actually performed any terrorist acts. Did he?
Yes, he did. As a matter of fact, it's all in his biography. He put a bomb in a bank in Israel, and he was also in Chicago in the 80s, and he was getting involved with terrorists such as Jabal Saeed. These were all, terrorists who worked with the PLO, who worked with Hamas, and all these other terrorist organizations. So, of course, yes, he did do acts of terrorism. When he was, I believe, by the age of 15, he attacked an Israeli soldier in Israel. He lynched an Israeli soldier. So, yes, he was very much involved with Islamic terrorism when he was younger.
And that was in the United States. He was involved with Islamic terrorism in the United States? That's
correct. He was involved in Islamic terrorism in the United States. And what's interesting is that people tell us, I'll have liberals tell us, oh, there was no Islamic terrorism until the 90s, blah, blah, blah. And my dad will say, no, what are you talking about? There was terrorism in the 1970s. There was Islamic terrorism in the 1970s. It is, and because people want to blame American policy, for example, that it was American policy that gave birth to Islamic terrorism. But there was Islamic terrorism in the 70s. America had no involvement or with Hamas in the 1970s. It all has to do with the ideology of Islam that these organizations came to be.
Okay, if he was involved in terrorism in the United States, in the 80s, you said?
That's correct.
Okay. Why isn't he in jail? Why wasn't he? Was he ever charged with any of this? What what about And what about
He
in
actually did.
Israel? What
He
about in
actually did.
Israel? Go ahead.
What's that?
Well, in
He
Israel too,
actually did.
you said he blew up a bank in Israel, and Israel's pretty adamant about prosecuting terrorists.
He actually did stay in prison in Israel for a while. He actually stayed in prison for 2 weeks in a prison in Israel, and that's where he met his bomb maker. So he did spend jail time in Israel. In America, he didn't do anything technically illegal, so they couldn't throw him in prison in the United States. And in Israel, you know, he never really got caught for his bombing of a bank. So I hope that answers your question. And Israel, and
Well,
Israel
not,
knows
not
about
really.
it.
I'm just wondering how a former terrorist. I mean, the United States has been pretty harsh with arresting people. You know, over in Afghanistan. You know, shipping them off to Guantanamo because a neighbor or something said they might be a terrorist. And your father's admitting to be this, or you know, talking about this publicly, and suffered no consequences from either Israel or the United States. I'm just not quite understanding how that could happen.
Well, it's amazing how, you know, it's amazing how you're wondering that my father is in jail, but yet you want to defend people in Afghanistan. I don't really understand that.
I'm saying we put people in Guantanamo who we accuse of being a terrorist. Okay,
I heard what you were saying.
Okay.
You know, but I just find it interesting that my father is here fighting terrorism, and yet you want him to be thrown in jail. Or,
No, I'm not asking him.
Or you're wondering why he's not in jail.
I'm wondering why he hasn't been prosecuted for confessing or admitting to be a terrorist. I'm trying to understand that.
Well, you know, he did jail time in Israel, so you know, it's not like he's getting a free pass or anything like that.
Okay. How did he, or what occurred? Now you say he had converted to Christianity.
That's right.
When you were 3 years old. How old are you now?
I'm 20.
20. Okay. He converted to Christianity when you were 3. That's almost 20 years ago. That'd be approximately in the 80s. So after he converted to Christianity, he became a Muslim terrorist. How wouldn't he be a Christian terrorist?
He never became a Christian terrorist. He left terrorism when he converted to Christianity.
Oh, I see. 20 years ago.
Yeah. A little bit less than 20 years. It was 1993.
Okay. What kind of problems have you and your family and your father encountered in this transition? I mean, you're basically what is your message? What is he trying to get? Now you are a terrorist. Now you're fighting terrorism. How are you fighting terrorism? How is doing these shows?
My father works with the FBI. You know, he works with it. He helps police force. He speaks with police force and the LAPD. He speaks with the Las Vegas police department, and he helps them in understanding, you know, the mind of a terrorist. You know, the best ways to discern, you know, how a terrorist acts or where to find terrorists, things of that nature. You know, my father has been trying to get an investigation, and the FBI to investigate Jamal Saeed, who is a terrorist right now, and is working with Hamas, and my father has been trying to have an investigation of getting Jamal Saeed